Imagine being born into so much privilege that you think that even after destroying your country's economy and your family's thousands of years-old legacy, you will always be the pampered son. This was the case for Prince Andrew, but all of that shattered when the news was broken to him. What was the news? How did it affect Andrew? And who was the one who acted as the messenger of bad news? Watch this video till the end to find out. Prince Andrew. He was born into a life designed to protect him from consequences, given a rank and a public face that turned mistakes into footnotes and excess into expectation. For decades, that arrangement worked. The uniforms, the parades, and the access all did more than decorate a man. They gave him permission. Then, a thread pulled. The thread became a rope. The rope unraveled everything. The first image most people remember is the interview. Not the facts in it, not the carefully rehearsed denials, but the tone. He sat in front of millions and tried to explain away being seen with monsters. He offered a strange catalogue of excuses. The Pizza Express line, the inability to sweat, the odd claims of misplaced memory. The interview did not land the blow. It showed a man who had never learned how to answer for himself. It handed the crowd a weapon, and they used it. The reaction was immediate and savage. Overnight, the cultivated aura of wartime hero and dutiful son gave way to mockery and disbelief. The moment made the scandal tangible in a way the allegations never had. What followed was not a slow fall. It was swift institutional distancing. Titles were removed, patronages were stripped, and the right to represent the crown evaporated. The monarchy did not conduct a public trial. It acted. The privileges that once defined his identity were taken away, not in grand announcements, but in administrative finality. He could no longer sign his name with the same weight. He could not walk into a room and expect a salute because the office that conferred that deference had been quietly recalled. The palace decision was a verdict without the theater of a court. What makes the tale worse for him is that the new evidence kept arriving after he said it could not be true. An email surfaced from 2011 in which, after a photograph tied to the scandal was published, he allegedly wrote to Jeffrey Epstein that they were in this together. It was a sentence that did not merely suggest loyalty. It suggested complicity and mutual protection. That alleged private line sits badly beside the public line in which he claimed to have severed ties. The private correspondence undercuts the apology he never quite managed to make. It shows a man at ease with liars and monsters and unwilling to accept the consequences when the mirror came for him. The public, which had once cheered, pivoted to condemnation. Polls now show a country that wants the last vestiges of its status removed. A majority of people, across age groups, answered with a simple moral ledger. They do not want him to represent them. They do not want him in the line of sight of the institution that once elevated him. That is not a detail. It is the cumulative judgment of a society that will not reconcile the image of royalty with the allegations and the pattern of secrecy. The numbers are blunt. They reduce centuries of courtesy to a single civic refusal. Behind closed doors, the stories multiply in ways that do not help him. Former staff describe a man who expects the theater to bend to his whim. The anecdote that has taken hold in public imagination is about teddy bears, 72 of them lined up in particular order. A maid was trained how to arrange them. If they were not placed precisely, his anger could be enormous. Small cruelties like this do more than entertain gossip. They reveal character. They reveal a refusal to be accountable for the petty tyrannies he carried into adulthood. They show how power looks when no one is watching. Vanity Fair and others who interviewed palace staff found the anecdote not frivolous, but telling. It fit a larger pattern. That pattern is what turns scandal into a narrative of moral failure. It is easy to point to one email, one interview, one settlement, and one claim. But patterns do not live on a whim. Patterns live in accumulation, the way small indignities stack until they become a structure of behavior. He moved from boasting privileges to using them. He cultivated relationships with desperate money and secrecy. He refused to appreciate the simple human cost of the people drawn into his orbit. Each new revelation did not reset the story. It added weight. And then there were the attempts to salvage status. These were not humble apologies. They read as requests. Requests to be allowed back into lives and ceremonies he believed were his by right. Authors who have studied the family and its place in it now say the answer is no. One biographer put it bluntly: the royal apparatus will not reinstate him. His private life, the small habits, the persistent patterns of entitlement have reduced him to someone the institution must contain rather than showcase. His world has shrunk to a lodge and a garden. He plays golf and watches television while a country debates stripping titles. It is a life whose center was removed and cannot be recovered. This is where part one must leave the audience, not with a cliffhanger that softens him, but with the image of a man whose armor is gone and whose reflex is to lash out. The palace has decided he cannot represent the monarchy. The public has turned its face. Private correspondence keeps surfacing to show a distance between his words and his habits. He has the look of someone who has been told the one thing he could not accept. He has the look of someone who believes he can still bargain with a world that no longer listens. So we end on the question that keeps people watching and keeps the story moving. When a life is built on privilege and permission, and then permission is revoked, what remains of the man who thought himself untouchable? The answer will be harder than the accusation. It will be the slow destruction of reputation, the steady march of evidence, and the quiet decisions inside the palace that will determine whether any notion of redemption is left to be claimed.